Yeah, must have talked to everybody that knows you, huh?
I think
Are you ready? Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, from the capital city of the United States of America, Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
What's up, people? Let's get ready to rumble! How we doing, people? Let's do it to it. Now, we saw the first bout of Brian Kirkman with this crazy little battle that they got going on. Well, we got part 2 that happened today. And ooh, it was a barn burner. Daddy drinking, daddy spanking, daddy smoking in front of the kids, capital punishment, lawyers going at it, Kirkman losing control. Let's get ready to rumble. Here we go. Let's do it to it, people. Welcome, everybody. New viewers and everybody around the world. Here we go.
that's got to be it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and we mentioned it too, didn't we, during the on the record about
Yeah.
how you were concerned?
We did, and I think maybe that helped.
Good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it might have been.
Hopefully it did.
Hold on, I'm almost there.
Yeah, hopefully you get relief from that, because nobody wants that hanging
No.
over their heads.
Heck no.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are back on the records.
Okay, this is OER, any rebuttal?
I have a brief rebuttal, Your Honor. I'd call my client.
Okay. Ms. Borden, you're still under oath, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Borden, Mr. Higley just testified that he golfed on Tuesdays only. Is that accurate?
No,
He golfed what other day did he golf?
he would do his golf league on Tuesdays and rarely miss that. And then he would golf with Matt, his buddy, on Sundays quite often. And a few times, he said he had golf outings with Mike Martinez. I don't know if those happened.
Okay. And would he be drinking at those outings on
Yeah.
Tuesdays and Sundays?
Yes,
He also talked about a fight that you and him got in, or I guess it was an oral argument between you two on 11/7 of 2020. Is that accurate?
The date's accurate, but I don't fight with him. He was just yelling at me.
Okay. And he said he walked away that day?
Yeah, he finally walked away. He was gone a couple hours.
And had he been drinking?
Yes,
And was he intoxicated?
I think so. The way he was talking to me when he yelled, "Where's my effing beer?" When I saw him outside, I felt he was drunk.
Okay. And how long was he gone?
He was gone a couple hours, a couple being like maybe 2 hours. Oakley and I had dinner, we cleaned up, we'd watched an entire movie, and he was not there for any of that.
Do you remember him testifying an event that occurred on 11/20/2021?
11/20.
Or is that 2020?
Is it the Thanksgiving incident
I
at his
believe-
uncle's house?
Believe so, yes.
Yeah, it was the 28th.
Okay. And you heard his statements today about that?
Yeah,
What was untrue about what he said, if anything?
well, first of all, I testified with the whole truth, so he said everything was untrue that I had said. And so I'll just start with, they were smoking pot, drinking beer, and smoking cigarettes in his uncle's shop where he keeps his pigeons. And he did want Oakley to go in there and hang out with them, but I didn't want that. It's not a good environment for her. He said that I didn't take her on a nature walk. I mean,
And did you do that?
of course, yeah, I mean,
Why did you do that?
What a loser.
Oakley needed something to do because we weren't going to be in the shop sitting with everybody else who was smoking and drinking. So we did a lot of things. We went on a nature walk. We watched TV shows on my phone. We hung out in their living room and looked at all their trinkets and figurines. We did everything we could to keep busy.
Okay. He testified about some events in March of 21, correct?
Yeah.
Specifically about a bedtime incident at 7:45 p.m.
Yeah.
Was that true, what he said?
Well,
about that?
I think he said that he wasn't in bed at 7:45 that night
Oakley
because he liked to go and do things.
Okay, is that true?
No, he was in bed that night at 7:45 because he'd been drinking the day
I
before
love you
and
guys.
he was exhausted,
Okay, how much drinking did he do the day before?
Oakley.
drunk, to the point of being drunk and slurring and stumbling.
He also testified that he's always there at bedtime to read a story to Oakley and put her to bed.
To Oakley.
Is that true?
Well, yeah, how can you use the word always? No one's always there.
Okay.
So,
Was he there the majority of the time?
no,
Who put her to bed usually?
I did. He would ask me to let him know when it was her bedtime, if he was down in the shop drinking with his buddies. And I did let him know. And on those dates, some of the time he would come up and put her to bed with me.
Okay. Do you remember him testifying to events that occurred on 3/16 of 2021? And when I say
Yeah,
testifying, I'm
Robin.
talking about today.
Robin's a nerd.
Can you refresh me on that?
Oakley was with your mom and that particular day?
Okay. Can I look at my notes real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, can you tell the court what happened?
Well, he said that he just testified that he didn't pick up Oakley, that he wasn't supposed to. I believe that's what he said on that date because she was at his mom's house. And what he had told me was that he was at Marengo Township doing an estimate, which is not 4 minutes away from his mom's house, like he said. And then he said that he had asked me to get Oakley. It's all in my texts, and I can talk about those if you want, but he asked me to get Oakley, and so I did. And then we went home and we were waiting for him, and he didn't get home till later that evening, I think around 8 o'clock. And it turns out that he had been at the brewery bidding on tree service equipment from a company called Ailes that had gone out of business. And he wanted to buy a chip truck, so he was sitting there on his phone bidding. He wasn't actually at the township doing estimates. And then on top of that, when he got home, he went over to his neighbor Mike's and was playing pool.
Do you know if he was drinking at the brewery or at the neighbor Mike's?
He's at a brewery.
I didn't see him at the brewery, but it is typical for him to drink at the
Drinking
brewery.
right now.
And then at
He's drinking
the
right
neighbor
now.
Mike's, I don't know if he was drinking. All I know is he came home drunk. So where he was drinking, I don't know.
All right. Do you remember him testifying about a 4/11/21 incident or 4/12/21 incident?
Is that where he was going to go play cards at his friend Mooney's?
Yes, and something about his truck broke
Yeah.
down. He said that.
Yeah.
Is that how that is what he said accurate?
No, he has his time frame jumbled up. So what actually happened was on 4/11, he and I were supposed to have a date night that night, and we stopped at his friend Moomy's house. That's his nickname. It's his last name. And instead of going on a date, he hung around and drank with Moomy, and I sat in Moomy's living room. And when we went to leave, the truck would not start. So the truck stayed at Moomy's house overnight. And the next day, he was supposed to hang out with Oakley, and she begged him not to go, but he had to go pick up his truck because he was worried about it sitting there. And so he went around 3 p.m. that day to go get his truck from Moomy's house. And he said he'd be right back to Oakley, but he didn't come right back. He was playing cards. He told me he was just picking up the truck, but it turns out he was playing cards and drinking that day, like he said. And so he didn't get home till later that evening, and he was drunk and slurring his speech.
Do you have text messages to back that up, or is there no text messages regarding this incident?
Yeah, we around 6:30, I texted. It was like 3 hours later after he left, and I texted him to ask him where he was, and he didn't reply. I texted Moomy, and Moomy replied and said that he was there and that they were working on the truck, but it had been raining. It was a huge thunderstorm that day. So if he was outside working on his truck, he would have been soaking wet when he got home, and he definitely was not.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go, because this is a very long case. I'm only gonna show parts, little clips, and now we're gonna go to a couple friends were witnesses, so they interview and they cross-examine the friends. So the friends are testifying. So let's get to that part. And then I'm gonna show with another stuff, because this, you know me, I don't like to sit and just do one and 10-part series and all that kind of stuff. So
Further cross of Ms. Bourne.
Okay, so you have none, okay?
Correct. So we would be moving to rebuttal at this point.
hold on.
Well, Mr. Zoglio, does he have any other witnesses at this point?
Your Honor, no, I didn't have any other witnesses. And last we left off, my understanding is counsel did request rebuttal, and I did want to inquire of the court about the rebuttal situation. But I agree with Ms. McNiff. We were done with our case in chiefs, and I believe that Ms. McNiff said she had rebuttal. But if the court could hear whenever the court wants to hear my inquiry, I can give it.
Okay, well, go ahead, I think Ms. McNiff's ready to proceed with rebuttal, so you can go ahead and address her rebuttal.
I thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor,
Got it, Mayor.
my understanding is people is, I guess we would ask for a specific offer of proof to rebuttal. Both people have had ample amount of time to testify, and unless there's a rebuttal to a specific instance of conduct or specific event, we will be objecting to any new testimony with any new witnesses that are brought with new issues. And I assume that's the court's philosophy on that or position. I don't know.
Okay, well, let me, I guess, highlight that for you. Obviously, it's rebuttal, so you have to be rebutting something. That we're not going to have rebuttal for purposes of opening up other or additional avenues of examination. So I assume, Ms. McNiff, you're offering it as you propose for rebuttal purposes of other testimony. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. With that, I think it obviously falls within the parameters of rebuttal. And I guess, Mr. Zoglio, if she goes beyond that particular scope, you obviously have a right to object. And if she goes beyond that particular, I guess you say parameters, the court's not going to allow her to if you object. So,
Better now.
Ms. McNiff, you can proceed with your rebuttal. And who are you calling?
Are there people in the waiting room?
It's better now, right, guys? Thanks, Flying Mucky. Appreciate it.
McIlvaine.
Correct.
And
And Matt Sill?
I believe so, yes.
Could we call Matt Sill, please?
Yes.
Robin. Corgi.
And that was spelled S-I-L-L, I think.
Yes, we
Correct.
had it before.
Okay.
Mr. Sill, you had previously testified, and we're having you come in for a rebuttal at this point. What I'm going to do is have you sworn in again, and we'll proceed. So if you would raise your right hand.
Better now, peeps?
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that
Amazon girl.
what you're about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Go ahead, Ms. McNiff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sill, have you been on a golf league with Dale Higley?
I have.
And what year?
Last year?
So 2022.
Yep.
And do you recall approximately how many weeks you played in your golf league with him?
It's approximately 20.
And was he there for every golf league night?
No.
And do you have any idea out of those 20 weeks how many he missed approximately?
There was the accident. So he missed probably,
Now we good. Now we good. It's coming.
I don't know, 10, maybe 10 weeks there. Other than that, a couple here and there, not
Thanks,
too many,
guys.
I'd
Appreciate
say.
it.
Going to object on the grounds of speculation, Your Honor. He obviously doesn't know the answer to the question.
Well,
That's why I need you guys.
I'll take it. I mean, I recognize he says he doesn't know, but he believes that there were some other dates. We'll just accept it for that, and give it the appropriate weight.
Okay.
Did you and Mr. Higley drink alcohol when you were playing golf?
Usually, yes.
Yes.
And did Mr. Higley become intoxicated every time when you were playing golf?
No, we would have 6 beers, 3 each for the round. Generally, it was not totally unusual to have a last round on the 18th.
Okay. A last round of beer, you mean?
Of beer, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you, Toby.
And-
So I'm going to stop it for a second because I just want to make an announcement. So what I did was I added a perk, and it just got reviewed and approved by YouTube, that if you're a top nerd, you're going to be guest on one of my lives. So Robert Morley has been a contributor from day one, and he's a top nerd. So he's going to be a guest host next week, baby, with me one of these days. So Robert, slow clap for Robert, my man. He's going to be on one of the days next week, so look out for that. Having time served nerd herd guest hosts. Let's roll.
And was Mr. Higley on a pool league with you after Oakley was born?
No.
And in 2022, do you remember him coming to watch you play pool?
He has a couple of times, yes.
And was it every week, or was it just like you said, a couple times?
A couple of times, once in a while.
And is it true that he regularly would get intoxicated?
Oh, Robin, I have carte blanche to say Bebe from Mikey. I have permission to say baby.
Intoxicated when he would watch you play pool and then leave?
I've seen him have some drinks at the bar. I can't speak to his level of intoxication.
And is it true that there have been changes in Mr. Higley's personality since his motorcycle accident?
There have.
And have you seen anything? Have you seen him become more angry?
Not angry, no.
Have you seen him become abusive to people since his accident?
I have not.
I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Zoglio, any recross, I guess?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Sill, you just testified, maybe I misheard you, but you just testified that since Oakley was born, Mr. Higley was not in a golf league with you. Is that right?
I think the question was pool league.
Or I'm sorry, pool league. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, but he was in a golf league with you.
That is also correct.
And you said that during the is the golf league 18 holes or not?
18.
All right. And during the 18 holes, you said that you guys would average about 3 beers each during the golf, right?
That's correct.
All right. And then you said on the last round would come around close to the last hole. So does that mean 4 drinks sometimes?
No, just one each.
Oh, okay. Well, and at the end, so that would be 4 total.
That would be 4 total for a 4-hour round.
Okay. And so you're playing golf and you're not doing anything else except playing golf and drinking. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said something about having drinks at the bar before. Having drinks at the bar before what? Before golf leagues or pool leagues?
I don't recall what you're talking about. Drinks at the bar before.
Okay.
I was asked about if he would come down and visit me at pool league. I've seen him at my pool leagues on occasion, have a couple of beers.
Okay. And so even though he wasn't in a pool league since Oakley was born, he would still come down to see you and have a few beers while you were playing pool. Is that right?
Right, but he doesn't generally like the bars over here, so
Okay,
it's not an every week thing. It was once in a while.
Okay, and where was Oakley and Heather during that time that he would come down and have beers at the bar during your pool league?
I don't know.
They weren't there, correct?
No, generally no.
Because they were all hammered.
Counsel
They don't
asked you
remember
about
anything.
changes in Mr. Higley's personality. You said that he didn't have any anger issues since the accident.
Not that I've seen, no.
Okay, but isn't it true, sir, that you weren't living with him on a regular basis? So, you know, your only experience is limited. To be fair.
That's true, yes.
Okay. All right, I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Ms. McNiff, any additional, I guess, redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Sill, thank you for your testimony. You're excused. You have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I would call Michael McIlvaine next.
Okay.
Just a moment.
And I may have to lay a few ask a few foundational questions just because I haven't had Mr.
So essentially, they're just calling in his drinking buddies to just say that he drinks a lot or doesn't drink.
McIlvaine as a witness previously.
Basically.
Could you tell me? Oh, there it is. We have to get him to unmute.
The testimony you're
Look
about
at
to
his
give shall be
hands.
the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on. Can you wash your hands? I didn't notice that.
Ms. McNeff?
Thank you. And you can put your hand down. Mr. McIlvaine, do you spell your last name McElvain?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know Dale Higley?
Yes, I do.
And do you know Heather Borden?
Yes, I do.
So
And
stupid.
how much time did you spend with Dale, Heather, and Oakley before you had a motorcycle accident with Mr. Higley?
Quite a lot of time, actually. I worked with Dale through the tree service a lot, and I also worked up north with him. We renovated a lot of the restaurant up north. So I spent quite a bit of time around all three of them.
Would you spend overnights in Paradise at the restaurant?
Yes, I'd spend overnights at a house that was owned by the restaurant and by, Mr. Higley and Miss Heather Borden.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time. I don't understand. I understand she wants to get some background information, but how is this rebuttal evidence to what?
Well,
What is- what is-
we'll see. I think it is appropriate to give some background so we know familiarity, et cetera, to at least lay a foundation. So I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McIlvaine, when you would stay at Paradise, would you see Ms. Borden's mother, Terry Borden?
Yes,
Would you see Oakley?
yes.
Did you ever see, while you were in Paradise, Oakley run to her dad crying?
On a few occasions, yes.
And what did you see him do?
He'd pick her up and he'd hold her and say, "What's wrong, bud? What's wrong? Okie Pachoki," or something like that. And he'd figure out what was going on and he'd try to take care of the situation.
And where was Ms. Borden, Ms. Heather Borden, when this was going on?
Heather would either be cooking in the kitchen or taking care of tables, or sometimes she'd be on a meeting.
And where was Ms. Terry Borden?
A lot of times she'd be in the house, or she'd be helping in the kitchen bake or something of that nature.
Your Honor, can I get a time frame? I mean, he's just testifying to general things right now. I can't figure out when this was.
Okay, try to qualify it with the time frame, Ms. McNeff.
Objection. He said Okie Pachoki. It's Okie Bachoki.
Mr. McIlvaine, when did you see Oakley running to Mr. Higley crying up at Paradise?
Up at Paradise, I'd say most of the time when that would happen, it'd be when she'd be tired, about midday, noonish, and roughly time period of when, I'd say
He's the worst.
December. Trying to find a good remember. I'm sorry, I'm pretty foggy. It's been a while. I wish I had a calendar in front of me.
Why do I have a feeling this guy just came in and wrote on a bar napkin? Yeah, call these guys in on my custody hearing for my divorce.
Last year was 2022. Were you there in 2022?
Yes.
Were you there in 2021?
A few times.
Pants.
Were you there more in 2022 or 2021?
More in 2021, I believe.
Okay. And so do you have any recollection of whether or not the times you would see Oakley come crying to her dad were in 2021 or 2022?
I would say more, I was more prevalent in more 2021 than 2022, if I remember correctly.
What up, Mark?
Does that help? Does that help, Mr. Zoglio? Okay. Mr. McIlvaine.
I'm sorry, I can't. I just don't know.
The lawyer's laughing. The lawyer's laughing. Did he borrow DeSanto's chair? The lawyer's like, I don't know. This is great.
I can't really answer that. Thank you, counsel.
Mr. McIlvaine, have you ever seen Mr. Higley yell at Oakley?
Welcome, Jen.
If she had done something wrong, yes.
And have you ever seen him swear at Oakley?
No.
Have you ever seen him physically discipline Oakley?
An objection, lack of calls for speculation and lack of foundation. The testimony, I think, where the yelling and the disciplining and the spanking, that all came with specific dates from my client, and I don't see what he's rebutting right now.
We're rebutting the idea that the allegations that my client has put his hands on Oakley and has verbally abused her and emotionally abused her. Ms. Gordon testified extensively that he did that.
But in her testimony, Your Honor, no one else was around except for Mr. Gordon and Mr. Higley. So this witness wouldn't know that.
Ms. McDeff?
Your Honor, I while we're not rebutting with this witness the exact incidents, we are rebutting the allegations that my client has been physically and verbally abusive to the party's child. I don't have a ton of questions. I can make this pretty quick.
Okay, well, I'll allow some leeway, but recognize that it is rebuttal.
Yes, Peach.
I understand. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McIlvaine, have you ever seen, have you ever observed Mr. Higley verbally abuse Ms. Borden, Ms. Heather Borden?
No, not right offhand.
Have you ever observed him emotionally abusing Ms. Heather Borden?
No, not right offhand.
Have you ever observed Mr. Higley when he was taking care of Oakley?
Yes.
And have you observed him taking care of Oakley without Ms. Borden around?
Yes.
Have you ever observed Oakley with Mr. Higley when he was too intoxicated to care for her?
No.
I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Zoglio, any cross?
Mr. McIlvaine, how are you today?
I'm doing fairly well, thank you.
Good, sir. So, Mr. McIlvaine, you said you spent some time with the couple, but isn't it true that you didn't live with them, right?
No, I did not.
And are you a friend of Mr. Higley's?
Yes.
And I mean, and is it true, sir, that you've smoked marijuana and drank with Mr. Higley?
Your Honor, I believe that exceeds the scope.
Mr. Zoglio?
Okay. I mean, this is cross-examination, but I'll move on, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
I'll withdraw the question.
Okay.
Sir, do you remember a date of 4/2 of 2022?
4/2/2022. Vaguely. Can I get some basis behind that statement?
Sure. I'll give you more background on this. You testified on direct that you said you never saw Dale yell or be verbally abusive towards his daughter, correct?
Yes.
But on 4/2/2022, didn't you actually weren't you actually a witness when Dale yelled at his daughter about a scooter, about not riding a scooter?
I don't remember that, sir.
You don't remember that at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple more things about that. Do you remember drinking or smoking marijuana that day?
I might have had a beer. I don't remember.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Counsel asked you if Mr. Higley was too intoxicated to take care of his daughter, but isn't it true, sir, that that you went to the brewery that day and that you and Dale were intoxicated by noon?
At noon? No.
Yeah.
we were at Grand River at noon. We only typically go from 3 to 5.
Okay. And how often do you go from 3 to 5?
Occasionally, I'd say maybe once, twice a month.
Do you still do that?
I don't. That's just because of money reasons, but.
All right. And did you work for Mr. Higley in his tree business? Is that?
Yes.
All right. So I know I asked you this, but you haven't lived with the couple, so you don't know sort of what goes beyond closed doors. Is that a fair statement to make?
It is a fair statement to make, sir.
Like they texted each other in the group chat. It was like, guys, you got to meet me at the bar later. And then it's like, didn't I tell you? Don't say okey pachokey. Don't say we were at the golf course for 18 holes drinking. Don't say I was smoking weed with you. And all of that's all you guys did. And could you have washed your hands before you swore? Dude, like, really? You definitely see that happening. Okey pachokey.
Do you have Got one moment, Your Honor.
So did he yell about the scooter? Did she not put it away? Did she not charge it? What did she do with the scooter? Okay.
Counsel asked you a question about a time you were up in Paradise and the child ran crying to her dad. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. There were other individuals there around there, correct?
Yes.
The child wasn't by herself?
No.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. McIlvaine, I did have just a clarification, is I think when Ms. McNiff was asking you about times that the defendant, or strike that the plaintiff, Mr. Higley, might have yelled at his daughter. You said if Oakley had done something wrong, the defendant has yelled, correct? Or did I get that? Is that yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just when Mr. Zogli, when Mr. Zogli asked you, then I thought you contradict yourself. I want to make sure I had it correct. That's all. Ms. McNiff, any additional redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. McIlvaine, that will conclude your testimony. Then, well, I should give Mr. Zoglio, because I asked the question, do you have anything in reference to what I had asked?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. McIlvaine, now conclude your testimony. You're excused. Have a good day, sir.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Oh, thank God.
Any additional rebuttal, Ms. McNiff?
Mr. Higley, please.
Okay. Mr. Higley, what you're doing, you're still under oath.
Oh, here we
so with that, you can proceed, Ms. McNiff.
Yes.
Mr. Higley, is the allegation that you kicked Terry Borden out of your house 4 days after Oakley's birth true?
Objection, leading question.
Here we go.
Well, I'm trying to establish. I don't believe it is leading, actually, Your Honor. I'm asking whether it's true or not. It's the allegation that's been made.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You don't suggest the answer, is just asking if what the answer is.
I can answer that then.
Correct.
That's incorrect.
And did you insist on taking Heather Borden to the brewery a few days after she gave birth?
Incorrect.
Is it true that Terry Borden hasn't fallen in years?
That's false.
Have you ever personally observed her fall?
I've also assisted her.
You got to answer.
Objection, non-responsive to the answer.
I have seen her fall.
And do you have any idea of what year was the last time you saw her fall?
I've seen her every 6 years that I've known them.
Objection, non-responsive to the answer.
asked him how often. He said every 6 years. Let me have him clarify.
Yeah, clarify, please.
When you say every 6 years, do you mean like she goes 6 years and then falls, or do you mean something else?
I mean, that I've seen her fall every year for 6 years.
Is it true that when you and Heather were residing together, you were only home a few nights per week?
That's incorrect.
And do you know how many nights per week Heather was home?
I would say 5 out of 7.
And when you and Heather lived together, is it true that you'd never put Oakley to bed?
That's incorrect.
Is it true that you never helped her brush her teeth?
Incorrect.
Objection, that's not rebuttal evidence. Now, counsel, now it appears that counsel's questions are trying to rehab testimony on the custody factors. He never testified to this before, and Heather Borden also never testified that he never put the child to bed. We're going beyond rebuttal.
That's not correct. Ms. Borden did testify about all of these issues.
Never said the word never, Your Honor. Never brushed teeth. Never said that.
I can remove the word. I can remove.
Now we're trying to get into more stuff.
Okie Pachoki never brushed her teeth?
I can remove the word never from my questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Is it true that you didn't put Oakley to bed?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you didn't help her brush her teeth?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you didn't bathe her?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you didn't read to her?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you didn't buy Oakley clothing when you were residing with Heather Borden?
Incorrect.
Is it true that Oakley does not look to you for comfort?
Incorrect. Excuse me.
Is it true that Oakley always went to mom when you were together if Oakley needed something?
It's incorrect.
Is it true that you yelled at Heather to take Oakley out of the bedroom when she was little and crying?
False.
Is it true that you haven't purchased books for Oakley?
False.
Is it true that you don't teach Oakley about how to deal with her emotions?
Very false.
What?
Is it true that you don't know how to install a car seat?
What?
Very false.
Is it true that Oakley pushed over a car seat after you installed it?
False.
Have you ever told Heather that you would take Oakley for parenting time and then you did not take her for the parenting time?
It's incorrect.
Is it true that when you visited your uncle in 2020 for Thanksgiving, then everyone was hanging out in his garage smoking cigarettes and marijuana?
Your Honor, all this is just a straight denial of the questions, and their questions are compound questions, and they're just basically refuting compound questions that are leading and refuting what my client said. With one word.
Mr. Soglio, what do you believe that rebuttal is for? If it's not for refuting other testimony, I guess I'm at a loss.
Well, I understand that, Your Honor, but what's going on is the events that my client testified to, Mr. Higley is just simply saying incorrect, false, and they're questions with multiple facts in them and not even broken up. So I understand. I'm just.
Well, when you cross, you can go into that if you wish to do so. Go ahead, Ms. McNibb.
I was concerned that if I try to elicit a more detailed response, that I would get an objection that we were going beyond the scope of rebuttal.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it accurate that on Thanksgiving of 2020, Heather took Oakley for a walk?
That's incorrect also.
Okay. Is it true that you insisted that Oakley say hi to your uncle in a smoke-filled garage?
It's incorrect.
Is it true that when you resided with Ms. Borden that you would often stay out with your friend Matt until 3 a.m. or later?
That's very incorrect. It's impossible, actually.
Why is it impossible?
The only bar that I go to is obviously the Grand River, and that closes at 9 since COVID.
And is it true that when you lived with Ms. Borden that you would often come home intoxicated after golf league?
It's false.
Is it true that you would often come home intoxicated from Grand River Brewery?
False.
Is it true that you went to Grand River Brewery on a regular basis in 2022?
False.
Do you have any idea of how often you went?
I have a very good idea. If I can say it, I'm not sure if I can.
You can say it.
we went every Monday, probably 3 weeks out of the month. And then I like to go on wings night on Wednesday, and it was always from 3 to 5 because that's when the sales were.
Okay. Is it true that Oakley has to work hard to please you?
Not at all.
Is it true that Oakley has apologized to you after you've yelled at her?
I guess I would object on the grounds of hearsay.
I'm not asking for what she said. I'm just, there was testimony that from Ms. Borden that Oakley regularly apologizes to Dad after he yells at her.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Is it true that Oakley has apologized to you after you've yelled at her?
There's never been a need
Give
for
us
her
a
to
question.
apologize.
Since you're, no, Mr. President-elect.
Has she ever
Since
apologized to
you
you
are
after
attacking
you
our news
been upset with
organization,
her?
can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You
is
are attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you
Is
give
it
us a
true that
chance to
when
ask a
Oakley was a
question, sir?
newborn
Go
that she
Sir,
was?
can you
Quiet,
state,
quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking
categorically,
a question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No, I'm
give
not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question.
Can
I'm
you-
not going to give you a
Can you
question.
can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state
Crying
categorically
and
that
you
nobody?
yelled at Ms. Borden to take her out of the bedroom?
That's very false.
And do you recall that incident that Ms. Borden testified about when Oakley was a newborn and she was crying?
I sure do.
And do you remember yelling to take her out of the room?
No, I do not.
Do you remember what happened?
I do.
What happened?
She hasn't developed this flap that lets air out. We found out this after a few occasions have happened. And the first couple occasions, Mrs. Borden and I did have an argument of whether to take her to the hospital because I was worried about our daughter. And so finally we ended up taking her to not the hospital, but to our doctor that I attended, and learned that this flap here that lets gas out doesn't develop, and she keeps acid in her stomach, and that's why she's crying, at nighttime because of the acid. And then the doctor said within so many months it would develop and everything would be fine, and it was.
Did you and Ms. Borden argue during that time when Oakley was crying and when she was a newborn?
Yes, we did.
And were you angry with Oakley because she was crying?
No, we weren't even in the room when we were in the argument, Heather, Miss Borden, and I.
Your Honor, can I get a date on this? So see if this is rebuttal. Sorry.
What I recall was that Ms. Borden testified that this was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the child was born.
Thank you.
Mr. Higley, is it true that on Saturday, November 21st of 2020, that Oakley knocked over a beer at your house?
That's incorrect.
Is it true that on that same date that you tossed her on the couch?
Never.
Pinned her down?
Never.
On that same date, did you push Heather?
I have not.
Did you yell in Oakley's face?
Never.
Did you throw a telephone on that date?
No.
Is it true that on Tuesday, August 23rd of 2022, that Oakley was making a noise on the cabinet door?
Idiot. What?
That's false.
Is it false that she was making a noise, or what's false about the statement?
What noise?
I don't remember her playing with a cabinet door, much less making noise with a cabinet door.
What?
She's a good child.
Was there ever a time that you can recall that she was making a noise and you got angry with her?
The slamming door incident, why I was in bed.
Okay. And do you recall if that was on Tuesday, August 23rd of 22?
I'd have to look at my notes.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can imagine what his notes look like.
Look at them and refresh your recollection and put them down and let us know.
Where does he draw the Michigan Wolverine logo?
Said August 22.
Yeah, August 23 of 22.
Oh, 23 or 22.
Bud Light.
Okay.
Do you now that have you refreshed your recollection?
I have now.
Okay. Do you recall that date?
I do.
And was that a date that Oakley was making a noise?
She was slamming the bedroom door against the wall
Okay.
while I was sleeping.
And is it true that you jumped out of bed?
I don't know if I'd call it jumped, but I did get out of bed.
And did you snatch her up?
I did not.
And what did you do?
Oakley sat down while I was getting out of bed. She sat down where I could not shut the door because that was my intention of just getting up and shutting the door. She sat down where was unable to shut the door. So I picked her up and I walked her to the living room and I sat her down. As I sat her down, she started crying.
Okay. Is it true that she started to urinate when you picked her up?
No.
Is it true that you tossed her on a blanket?
Incorrect.
And is it true that you said, good, now you can pee on your own blanket?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you slammed the bedroom door?
I did not.
Did you lock the bedroom door?
I did not.
Did you refuse to allow Ms. Borden to come in and get clothes for Oakley?
I did not.
What is your recollection of that date?
When I sat her in the living room right next to Mrs. Borden, I went back to my room. I did shut the door. I did not lock it. As I was getting back in bed and pulling the covers back up over my shoulder, Oakley knocked and I said, come in. Oakley came in, climbed in bed with me and went to sleep.
Do you recall Ms. Borden taking Oakley and leaving the home on that date?
Miss Borden was on a meeting on her laptop and she never left her seat from her desk.
Is it true that you have 2 televisions in your shop?
I used to.
Okay. And do you still have 2 televisions in your shop?
I do not. I took one up to the berry patch.
And is the other one still in your shop?
I do have one in the shop.
Okay. Is it true that you rarely attended church with Ms. Borden when you were residing together?
Incorrect.
Is it true that you tried to get Ms. Borden and Oakley to not attend church?
Never.
Is it true that Ms. Borden introduced you to that church?
I went to Crossroads probably a decade before I met Mrs. Borden.
Okay. Is it true that you skipped church to play golf?
I didn't know church was on Tuesdays.
Do you only play golf on Tuesdays?
That's correct.
Is it true that Ms. Borden purchased clothing for you when you were residing together?
Occasionally, not very often.
Is it true that she contributed to paying the utilities at the home?
Never.
Is it true that you were always gone at meetings?
I guess I would object, Your Honor, again, that there was no testimony that she paid all the utilities at the home or any of the utilities.
Oh, I thought she testified that she contributed to the utilities. I apologize for that.
Okay, well, we'll take it for what it's worth. My recollection is she had referenced that and referenced some payment of utilities, but we'll have to look. I don't think that's dispositive on any issue the court's going to decide, though.
Mr. Higley, is it true that you were often gone at meal times when you resided together as a family?
Never. I always came up, whether I was doing maintenance on my equipment or mowing the lawn or whatever I was doing, we came up and had a family dinner together.
Is it true that you often stayed at Grand River Brewery after Ms. Borden and Oakley left on the days that you would go down?
It's incorrect.
Do you have a savings account or trust for Oakley?
I do. I have a couple of them. I don't know if you want me to say where.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Have you ever had an issue with strangers coming onto your property?
Never.
Is it true that you've had equipment stolen out of your shop?
No.
Did Ms. Borden have a house in Leslie when she was pregnant with Oakley?
She did.
And did you talk about moving there?
Never.
Is it true that you've allowed Oakley to play alone in your shop?
No.
And why do you laugh about that?
Because I love enjoying the time with her. I'm always with her whenever she's on my property. I never let her out of my sight because I enjoy being with her.
Is it true that you had a keg in your shop when Ms. Borden moved out?
I did.
And
Nice
is it
transition.
true that Oakley was awake or around for time?
I love my child so much. I never leave her out of her sight. Is it true that you have kegs in your shop?
Times when you and your friends would play Cards
She's
Against
his
Humanity?
lawyer.
I don't remember Oakley being around. It was always after we put her to bed.
Is it true that you had a lot of parties to watch sports at your house?
Just the Michigan State and Ohio State game.
I knew he was drawing logos.
And how many people would attend these parties?
3 if I was lucky, because we like to play euchre while watching the game.
So
he's just testifying that he's a guy. He's just a guy. He's just doing man things. See, like, this is how you're portraying this guy as hideous? Look at him. He comes home tanked, like, okay, is it true you played cornhole while Okie Pachoki was rolling a keg down the river?
So 4 including you, or 5 including Ms. Borden?
If Miss Borden was there, there would be 4 or maybe 5.
Do you recall November 7th of 2020 when you were up north with Ms. Borden?
Oh, Spartans logo. There it is.
I do.
And is it true that you went on a rant about how Ms. Borden would not talk to you?
Ryan, good one.
I don't remember it being a rant. I remember it being a discussion that I wanted to find out why she would just walk away and not say anything.
And is it true that you left for a couple of hours?
This was due to my accident. It's hard for you to sleep after you have a head injury.
Well, this is 2020.
Oh,
Heather.
okay. What was the question again?
Did you leave for a couple of hours?
Yes. I walked to cool off because I was a little upset that she wouldn't speak to me.
Did you, on that date, did you yell at her, where's my effing beer?
Ooh, saucy.
Never.
Do you recall Tuesday, March 16th of 21?
His wife is definitely knitting. And that lawyer looks like Rodney Dangerfield, by the way.
As counsel, your client's reviewing notes right now. You asked him if he could recall, and he picked up his notes.
I can recall
it. And your client was reviewing notes when she was testifying about the dates too. I mean, there's a lot of dates that she testified about.
But that was after I initially asked her if she remembered, and I believe she said yes. But I'm not going to argue about it. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you refreshed your recollection?
I have.
Okay. And do you recall Tuesday, March 16th?
I do.
Of 21? Was it true that Oakley was being cared for by your mom that day?
That's correct.
And is it true that you didn't pick up Oakley that day?
That is true.
And is it because you were at Grand River?
That is incorrect.
And do you know where you were?
I was doing an estimate, and that instant that she wanted me to pick her up, I was on my way back, and I could have been there in like 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Is it true that you asked Ms. Borden to pick up Oakley?
I said I could be there 4 to 5 minutes, and she said, I'm going around the circle. I'm right here. I can grab her. And I said, that's fine with me.
Okay. Do you recall Thursday, March 18th of 21?
I do not.
Bird is the word.
I do not.
Okay.
Good one.
Do you recall in March of 21 if you were playing pool on a league?
You said 21?
Correct.
I haven't played on a league before Oakley was born. I stopped before that.
Good one.
And were you subbing on pool leagues in 21?
I quit 100% before Oakley was born.
Okay.
But like,
so the allegation that you came home drunk after playing pool on a league on March 18th, 21 is that true or false?
I haven't played on a league before 2018, so it's false.
are they trying? I think they're trying to make the argument that all of these things that he does, it's not because he's doing it because he's a sportsman, and he's just doing it because he comes home intoxicated. I think this is like the main idea of this testimony and this line of questioning. And she's trying to say that he didn't do these things, he quit, so he's not drinking. But I think if you read between the lines, there is definitely a happy medium here to where he definitely was coming home wasted and definitely losing his patience every once in a while. But it's not as bad as she said. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay. And do you recall Saturday, March 20th of 21?
I do not.
Do you recall Sunday, March 21st of 21?
I do not.
Page 3.
Do you recall at any point in March of 2021 going to bed at 7:45 because you were drunk?
I guess
7:45 p.m.
Oh, that was the night he had an intense game of Uno.
Your Honor, he can't remember the dates and he can't remember the incidents. So,
Well, maybe the court will allow it because maybe the incident will recall, he'll be able to recall the date then.
As far as I know, every time Oakley was put to bed, I was there reading a book, snuggling in, tucking her in, helping her get her jammies on, whatever, every single night.
So do you recall any nights that you would go to bed early because you were drunk before she would go to bed?
Never drunk, but there are some times before I sold my snow plowing business that I might not have been there because I was snow plowing. But other than that, I was never too drunk to put my daughter to bed.
Okay. Do you recall
I don't know.
going to your friend Mumi's house on April 12th of 21?
I do.
And is it true that you went there to work on a truck?
No, it's not true.
No. And why did you go there?
That night we were going to play, I can't remember if it was euchre or maybe it was Cards Against Humanity. One of the other.
What's
And
euchre?
is it true that you came home drunk from his house?
I did not, because during the time we were playing, my vehicle didn't start because I needed to move it for his driveway. And I ended up focusing more on getting my vehicle repaired so that I could, get back home and get to work the next day.
Okay. Do you recall Tuesday, April 5th of 2022? So it would have been this approximately a year ago.
Studfield Mouse, you can't. Oh, those notes.
I do.
I would die
and
for those notes.
If you refresh your recollection.
I have.
Okay. And on that date, did you tell Oakley that she had 8 minutes to watch a show and before you were going to turn the channel and watch a game?
I don't believe I told Oakley that. I asked Heather that, and we had a conversation about it.
Okay. And did you say anything along the lines, if you don't want me around, you can be alone, have a nice life, to Oakley?
Never.
Have a nice
And
life.
did you tell her to get the F back in the bedroom?
Never.
Is it true that you drank almost every day when you were with Heather?
Heck no, it's not.
And do you have any idea of how many days out of the week you would generally drink?
We did on, 3 Mondays out of the month, Heather and I did also. And then I would say 1 or 2 days a week, I would have 1 or 2 after work, but not every day. And there's sometimes when I've went a week and a half, I'm just busy. I have a lot going on. If I even got back to the shop to even have a beer, Oakley'd run out and we started playing. It wasn't every single day.
Do you recall Monday, August 29th of 22?
I don't know. I do.
And did you go to a wedding that day?
I did not.
And was Ms. Borden upset because you were at a wedding instead of working at the restaurant?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, I believe she testified about it.
Well, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
She was very upset due to the biggest day for our restaurant. It's called the Blueberry Fest, and that people come from all states around, and it's very, very busy. And my cousin had a wedding that I told her about months in advance that I was going to.
But the wedding was on a Monday?
The wedding was on Saturday. 8/20 of 22, the wedding was on.
And so did you miss going to the restaurant on 8/20 of 22?
On 8/20 of 22, I did. I was at the restaurant in the morning, and midday I helped them prep for the Blueberry Fest and get all the pies and everything out, and did what I could. And then I waited till the very end, so I had to get going to get the wedding, and that's when I left. And I returned that night.
Do you recall September 3rd of 22?
I do.
Okay. And
Ripping a huge
did you go to
fart.
Grand River Brewery that day?
I did. I worked that day and put a full day in, or what I could, for my injury. And then that day they had the I don't know what you want to call it, the band out on the road. They shut the road down. It's a big thing in town. And I did go down there to have dinner with one of my workers.
Okay. And is it true that when you were finished with dinner, you walked to your mom's home?
That's correct, because there's no parking within miles around, because people come from around, and I parked at my home so that I could have a parking spot. And I planned to stay the night there that night anyways.
Okay. And is it true that you were stumbling home when you came back to your mom's home?
That's incorrect, because when I got there, I did have a beer with dinner, and immediately I got a headache. So I stopped drinking and just drank water.
And is it
Look at
true that
Rodney.
you urinated in the yard
no
of
respect.
your mom's home that night?
That's incorrect.
And how are the street lights on her street?
There's one on the north corner and there's one on the south corner, but we have 2 units on each side of us, so it's very dark down the.
Why did she like look up at him when she asked about the streetlights? She was like, like she was knitting the whole time, and then as soon as they talked about the shit, she was like, what about the streetlights, honey? Like, this woman sucks. I'm sorry, ladies, but you guys are all awesome. This lady sucks.
It's kind of like a little alleyway where our driveway and houses.
I mean, he's no prize.
And is it true that that when
God.
you got back to the house, you started your vehicle?
I did not.
And is it true that you were sitting in the vehicle when your neighbor came over?
I was not. My neighbor come walking across the street as I was halfway down the block to my house, and we started talking.
And where was Oakley that night?
Oakley was in the UP at a restaurant with Heather.
And is it true that you called Ms. Borden before the neighbor took you home?
I'm not sure if I called her before, but I know I called her after.
And is it true that you were slurring your words?
I was not slurring.
And were you intoxicated?
Like I said, I had my 1 beer and I got the headache from my injury, and I had water after that, so I don't believe so.
Okay, so Your Honor, he's rebutting his own testimony that he was intoxicated. The first time he testified, he said he was intoxicated that night. Now he's rebutting his own testimony. He said.
I'll allow it because the neighbor said that he was intoxicated, so I'll allow the answer.
Is it true that on September, well, first of all, do you recall September 28th and 29th, the weekend of September 28th and 29th of 22?
I do.
Is it true that you had parenting time that weekend?
I believe so.
And did you refuse to take your parenting time?
I did not.
And is it true that you invited someone named Tristan over to your house that weekend?
I did not.
Is it true that you asked Tristan to help you drain your
I believe
keg?
somewhere in Jefferson County, Beaumont. Yeah, Jefferson County.
I said it as a joke because it sat in there so long, it was flat. So I told him, if you want to come take the rest, go ahead. It's flat. It sat in there for like 6 months. And I don't know exactly how many, 4 to 6 months. And it was flat and gross. And I was in the hospital for a month and rehab for a month. And it was just bad. It was bad skunky beer.
Okay. Is it true that you called your daughter on Saturday, I believe it's a Saturday, September 29th of 22?
Skunky.
I call her every night.
Do you recall being intoxicated on that night?
I don't recall being intoxicated that night.
Is it true that you've had problems remembering names?
Only when I'm drunk.
Who are you directing it to?
If you had problems since your accident, have you had trouble remembering names?
No.
Since your accident, have you had problems remembering conversations?
No.
Have you had problems remembering events?
Incorrect.
Where am I?
Is it true that you've refused cognitive therapy?
That's incorrect.
And have you gone to any therapy, or psychological therapy?
I have. Before I left Kalamazoo there, they set it all up for me and I did attend it. Heather wasn't around for a lot of them because she was in the UP when Lewis was taking care of my house.
I'm gonna object to as far as what my client was doing. That wasn't the question that was asked.
Okay.
Well, she testified that he wouldn't go, so.
Just move on, please.
I will. Is it true that you were invited to Oakley's parent-teacher conference for preschool?
Yes, it is true. The issue was that first of all, I didn't receive it, I should say. And so when I heard through the grapevine that there was a parent-teacher conference, I called the teacher. And we got to talking, and she said, I did send you an invite. And then I was like, I didn't receive it. And we finally found out that it went to my junk mail because the teacher said, I send it to like 30 people at a time. So sometimes it goes in your junk mail. Check your junk mail out. So when I found it there, I realized that I needed to add her to my normal one. So I did receive it, but it was in my junk mail. So I kind of didn't receive it.
Okay. Okay.
It's kind of weird, but.
Is it true that you agree that Oakley should attend a Young 5 kindergarten class in the fall?
That is true.
And is it true that you don't think it's important for Oakley to learn academic subjects?
I want her to learn everything she can.
Is it true that Ms. Borden invited you to an online parenting class?
Incorrect.
Okay. Is it true that you threatened Ms. Borden that you were going to take Oakley because you know the judge?
That's incorrect.
Is it true that you went to a football game on Heather's due date to have Oakley?
That is very true.
And did you drink that night?
I did not. We had a big, this is one time we did communicate. We had to talk about it for about 15 minutes that day because it was her due date. And it was actually the very first day Michigan ever had lights on the stadium. And Heather informed me that she knew that I wanted to go very bad. And we talked about it and she goes, I just don't feel like I'm going to have a kid. If you want to go just stick by your phone, let's keep communicating back and forth. So I parked in a special spot. I talked to her, or I text her, excuse me, every half hour. How you feeling? What's going on? I end up leaving the game early. I parked in a spot where I could have a special exit out and walked to the game a further distance so that I could get out of there quick if I needed to. And again, we did leave the game early, so I got back home early, and she didn't have Oakley for another 8 days.
Do you pay attention to safety issues when you have Oakley?
I do.
Do you put sunscreen on her?
If we're outside,
Do you make her wear a life jacket?
100% of the time.
Okay. Do you make her sit in a car seat?
It's so stupid.
I'm against the car seat 100% if possible.
You're against the car seat?
I'm against putting her
What?
in there and taking her for long rides. But if she's in a vehicle, every time she's in a car seat, correct?
Okay. So if you're taking her to the grocery store, do you require that she sit in a car seat?
Doesn't matter where I take her, she's
That's
always
right
in a
up the
car seat.
lawyer's head.
Okay. Is it true that you had friends over to watch a football game when Heather went into labor?
What?
We did have the rivalry game on Michigan State that day.
And were you drinking alcohol?
I knew
That
which
day?
one logos.
Nope, it was only noon and we were barbecuing.
Is it true that you didn't finish high school?
It is true, I didn't finish high school.
And what?
This is the worst line of questioning ever. Babe, the sausages are almost done. Hold your water for a couple minutes. How are the contractions? All right. Could you get the Liam Perrins, please? I can't. The buns, will you? All right. Labor pains. Come on, babe. We got the game on. Michigan State's down 4.
What was the reason for that?
On my senior year, I had my brain surgery for my seizures and I was medically out of there. And then I was able to go back to school. There was like 2 days or up to a week somewhere left of it. So I just didn't end up going back because I wouldn't have got the credits. And then every year on my birthday is the last day of school. So when school ended, I turned 18 and my family got me into the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers as an apprentice. And I started my job and I've done the same work since my 18th birthday as I'm still doing to this day.
Is it true that you had a brain injury from falling out of a tree?
That's incorrect.
Is it true that you refused to work in the restaurant up north in July, starting in July of 22?
There were times that I was feeling like I was going to pass out after my accident. And there was times where I could only work an hour or so and I had to return to bed, but the doctors weren't even releasing me back to work yet. And I was already starting to work for our restaurant because that's our busy time of year. And I was putting everything I could into it, but I felt lightheaded, like I'm going to pass out. And there's not much more that I could do. It was the same with the tree service for the next couple months.
Is it true that you've called to talk to Oakley when you've been intoxicated?
No, it's not.
Is it true that when you and Ms. Borden were living together that she didn't have to travel overnight for work very often?
She traveled to work all the time. That's all she ever does.
But overnight?
Overnight. I would say every 10 to 14 days she's at overnight somewhere.
Is it true that Ms. Borden was hospitalized in 2022?
Yes, it is. The day I returned home from the hospital, I had to drive her, which I wasn't supposed to drive, but I had to drive her to a medical center for her to get help.
And was she hospitalized for dehydration?
She was.
Is it true that Ms. Borden told you that she was changing Oakley's doctor to Dr. Shoemaker?
I didn't find out until I believe the third, what I've searched, the third meeting, I didn't find out until.
The third appointment? Or
Appointment, sorry.
is it true that you've missed most of Oakley's doctor's appointments?
With Heather, it is not true. It is not true at all. But I have missed a few that Heather said, hey, it's just a checkup. They're going to weigh, measure her height. It's nothing. So I can take her if you're busy. But I have attended a lot of her doctor's appointments.
Is it true that you make beer at your house?
That's incorrect.
Have you ever made beer at your house?
I've never made beer at the house that I live in now since 2006.
Okay.
I did have the beer making kit that I did back in the day that Heather stored in the attic where Heather stored all of her possessions. And I'm sure she's seen it when she moved out and took a little note of the beer making kit.
Right. Is it true that you have a distillery at your house?
Listen, clarify with the curses. The cursing is coming from me. The curse words that are okay, we know which ones that are okay. If listen, it's the phrases like mother effer, blank sucker, all that kind of stuff to me. But the light cursing's okay. So I don't know what's going on. I don't even really read the comments when this is going on. We're all part of this community, guys. Chill out. The cussing is okay. I approve it. Nobody's doing what they're not supposed to do. I appreciate all of you for doing what you're supposed to do. It's the phrases, it's the inappropriate racist stuff, all that kind of stuff, all the blank sexual stuff, all that kind of stuff, the pew-pews. We know what's going on. If you want, I'll write up a list that's okay and then what's not. But we're all chill. This is the community. I love all of you guys. Relax. This is Friday night. Friday night fights are going on with these humps over here, not us. We're chilling. Okay? Okay. Let's hit the reset. Done. Chill. Chill. All right? I'm not calling anybody out. We're not calling anybody out. We're done. All the curse stuff is from me. All right? In the beginning, I was scared about what was said and what's not said. But if you want, carry you in Discord. Monica's in carry you in Discord. I'm going to put a what's allowed and what's not. Nobody's at fault. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Let's not do it. Let's not. Woosah. 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 It's because of YouTube. It was up to me. I'm from Jersey. You know how much cursing goes on in my home? It's every other word. But it's just we all love this channel, and I don't want it to blow up in our face. Because if that happens, I've only been around for 3 months, and I don't want this to happen. But you guys know I appreciate all my wrench people, everybody. So, yeah. Okay? If Carrie's saying she's not deleting it, then she's not deleting it. And if you're deleting it, please stop. Let's just get on with the thing, please. Let's get on with the case.
I do have a distillery. My neighbor bought the distillery. I brought it over. We made one batch of distillery and nobody liked it or could drink it. And the dude said, I don't want the darn thing.
Your objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
And it's going into a narrative. The question is it true you had a distillery? And then there's a narrative going on.
Okay, I sustained it, Mr. Zoglio. Do you want me to change that?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you still have the distillery at your house?
It is in the attic, correct?
Is it true that you didn't help choose the preschool that Oakley's attending?
Well, we visited the preschool that she's attending right now together and talked to the teacher and all of her assistants and toured the upstairs, downstairs playground. We met together and did that.
Okay. Is it true that you spend every weekend during college football season watching University of Michigan play?
No, I have a restaurant that I have to attend.
Okay. Is it true that you spend every weekend during March Madness watching basketball?
I don't watch maybe 10% of basketball.
Is it true that Heather bought you a relationship book?
It is true.
I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Zoglio, any cross?
Yes, thank you. What was the name of the relationship book, Mr. Higley?
I couldn't tell you.
Oakley has a Glock.
Okay. Do you recall, did you read the relationship book?
I did not.
Okay. Could it be that you're mistaken and you never received a relationship book from my client?
I can give you the exact reason is she refuses to speak to me, and I just want to have a one-on-one conversation with so-called girlfriend.
That's not what I asked you. Could you be mistaken? Maybe you answered, maybe you said could be. Did you say that you never received a relationship book?
I agreed that I did receive a relationship book.
But you can't recall the name.
For the second time, no, I cannot.
Okay. Is it true that you went to the preschool?
Yes, it is.
What's the name of the preschool?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I have it on my phone, on my GPS. I have the teacher's number on my phone. I've contacted her. I text her. We email.
Okay. You can't remember the name, but yet you approved the preschool, right?
I did.
Okay. And just to clarify, you did make moonshine with at your distillery? You did do that?
Well, you're incorrect. It's not my distillery, but I have done it one time in my life.
Okay. It's in your house though, right?
It is.
All right. And you said that you missed some doctor's appointments, but they were like regular checkup type appointments. Is that what you're saying?
Discussing it with Heather before I skipped it. Yes, we had a discussion before that and said it could be okay. And she'd inform me of what went on and give me the paperwork. Yes, I missed a couple.
All right. Right.
On the agreement with your client that it was okay to.
Okay. And you just testified she informed you of what went on, right?
Before she moved, she didn't inform me when she moved of the new doctor because I thought she loved Shelley to death, and she moved a doctor on me, and she did 2 appointments without my attention.
So the statement you just made prior to that about she informed you, that was incorrect. She didn't inform you of these appointments?
I believe I've answered that, buddy. She did at the Marshall doctor.
Said,
at the doctor up in her town. No, she did not.
Ooh,
there's 2 different doctors, so there's 2 different answers.
All right. So when you testified, when your counsel asked you that you missed regular appointments, you said on direct from your counsel that you missed these appointments, but you talked about them with Heather because that they were just regular things like weighing her and things like that. And you were okay with that because she informed you. Is that your testimony?
She was never sick. She never had a cough. She never had a fever. She never anything important. It was just her like 18-month checkup, 24-month checkup.
Okay. Now, how did you find out it was an 18-month checkup and a 24-month checkup? How did you find that out?
Well, I passed algebra, so I kind of figured out how to count months.
Okay.
I know her birth date and I know the date it is today, so I can add.
Did Heather inform you of that ahead of time?
She did in Marshall.
All right, thank you.
Not at the other one.
All right, sir. You said you were You said that Heather was hospitalized, and you drove her to the hospital. Remember that?
Here we go. He's rattling.
Okay. What date was that?
That was the day that I came home from the hospital. I don't have that date in front of me right now, but that was, I can add it up here if you give me just a couple seconds.
Can you give me an approximate date?
Yes, I can. I'm going to say in the mid-20s of June, mid to late 20s of June.
Okay. So at that time you were still boyfriend, girlfriend, correct?
I don't know where she stands on that.
I'm asking you, you were still boyfriend, girlfriend in your opinion. I mean, you took her to the hospital, right?
I did.
So in your mind, you're still boyfriend, girlfriend.
Correct.
You said that you did some apprenticeship after while you were in high school, right?
That's incorrect.
Okay, what did you do? What did you do in high school? You talked about some electrical apprenticeship or something. What was that?
The day that I turned 18 on June 5th, I joined the local IBW Local 17. And I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 days later, once I become a IBW member and paid my dues, they hired me.
Who hired you?
The IBW hired me through DTE, Detroit Energy.
Okay. And that's why you didn't go back to school?
Yeah, I have 6 people in my family that are linemen, and that's what I intended on doing.
Oh, right. You went to lineman school, right?
After that, but not at the same time.
And you
I don't
said,
know if you know what an apprenticeship is, it means you learn on the job. That's what an apprentice is.
It's
So
right.
you're certified as you go along, and
Uh-oh.
it's basically like a college, and then you get your certifications. You go from a apprentice to a journeyman to a foreman.
and you said you have how many people in your family that are linemen?
I believe there's 6 of us.
Okay. So after you had your brain surgery, did you ever consider going back and getting your GED from high school?
I didn't. I already had a full-time job and didn't need the certification, I guess.
Okay. You testified about an event on 10/13 where you and Heather talked about it, even though she was her due date, that you talked about it and you went to the U of M game, right?
We did have a conversation before I left.
Okay. And you're saying she gave you the go ahead to go to the game, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you went there and you just testified that you weren't drinking at the game, right?
I was not drinking at the game.
All right. What about before the game?
Before the what on her due date there?
Don't lie.
Yeah, on 10/13 of 18. Yeah.
No, I didn't drink the whole day due to her being her due date.
Are you aware that on 10/13, sir, of 18, that you posted something on your Facebook of you and Tony drinking and you have a beer in your hand at the game?
Oh, nailed.
Are you aware of that?
Nailed.
Well, sir, I believe that I've had season tickets for about 20 years and there's no beer in the stadium. So I don't know what pictures you got.
Well, I've got a picture here, and I think this probably came from your Facebook or your council, I think, submitted these pictures. And you're with Tony Johnson, and you say in here, getting close, go blue, with Dale Higley. I can hold this up.
And Mike the Mechanic. Oh, hold it up.
So
Hold
you
it up.
can see it.
Who's
Right there.
Rita,
That's you with a
thank
beer in your hand, right?
Thank you, Rita. Screenshot. Oh, that's going in the books. Dun, 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 dun. And Matlock saves the day. Nailed.
Looks like a bottle of something. I can't tell what it is.
Yeah, that's a beer.
Your Honor,
Just
is
'cause
is this testimony or just questioning?
All right. Okay.
Ask a question,
That's fair.
don't testify, please.
Absolutely not. You're absolutely not, Your Honor. You said it's a bottle of something, but you don't know what it is.
Can you prove that that's where we were? That's a picture.
Okay.
Pull out anywhere.
Okay. Mr. Higley,
He's got two. They're wearing Michigan shirts. They're outside the stadium. Coach Harbaugh's right next to him. I didn't have sex with that woman defense. Oh my God. Thank you, Flying Monkey, for the dono. That was great. That was great.
Higley, you're answering questions, you're not asking them, so please just answer.
You said that you don't have any problems remembering names and events for your daughter, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And is it true that my client has sent you numerous texts about events between you and her and Oakley?
No, she skips me all the time. That's very false.
So you're saying so remember when you testified the first time and I went through all those text messages? You're saying she doesn't send you those texts?
I think I told you that the first time also.
Okay. So the stack of text messages that I held up, that's not between you and her?
They are. But those are just day-to-day talk, not events.
Okay. Are you aware, sir, that the last time you testified that on 9/3 that you were intoxicated?
I don't remember. Maybe I did. I guess. I don't know.
Okay. And so assuming that you did, and I'm not making this up, you're changing your testimony today to say you weren't intoxicated. Is that right?
My belief, I don't believe I was. I know I wasn't stumbling or spitting, and I didn't urinate in the yard.
Are you aware that on that day when I asked you about this, and after you said you were intoxicated, you said you were getting these headaches and you had to drink a few times to make sure that that's what was giving you headaches? Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
So the witnesses that testified, Mr. and Mrs. Esser, they're making that whole thing up about you attempting to get in your car and drive and peeing in the yard. They just made all that up. Is that your testimony?
Well, I never seen the missus ever, so I believe she's made a lot up. But the
Okay.
mister, he did come to me as I was walking down the road, and we had a conversation as I got in the truck, to get my keys, because I was going to go on the front door. And that's when he stated he could give me a ride home.
He testified, he testified that you were in the car and that you were in there and the car, and then the car was running and that you were going to drive away, and he talked you out of driving. And you're saying today that's false.
That's correct.
All right. Do you know, are you familiar that when this husband and wife testified that they said they barely even knew you and Heather? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And they're not motivated to lie in any kind of way?
I don't know if they are or not. That's their opinion.
All right. And your witness just testified, I think it was Mr. McIlvaine. But let me ask you this. You've testified just now that you've never yelled at Oakley or Heather. You've never yelled at them. Did you
never said that? Heather and I fought constantly.
Okay.
Both yelled at each other.
In front of Oakley?
Yes. Many times.
Because when counsel asked you if you ever yelled at Oakley, you said never just now.
I know I've raised my voice if she's walking by the road, or if she's done something we haven't asked her to, I might have raised my voice a little bit. There's a difference in raising your voice and yelling.
Now it's just raising your voice. Okay. Sir, you said you had a keg in your shop. Is it true that you had it in there for 7 years?
I don't think it was 7 years.
The same keg?
How many years?
Same beer?
I would say probably 5.
I can't.
And, you know, you said that you were always home at meal times because you had family meals and you would never come home drunk from the bar. Is that right?
I would go there from occasionally, like twice a month, from 3 to 5.
Do you remember testifying for the first time you said that after everybody was, or after Oakley was in bed, that you would go to the bar?
Occasionally. I made sure that we ate, she took a bath, we went to bed, I read her a book, and then after they went to bed at 9 o'clock, I don't know. I don't know about you if you go to bed at 9, but sometimes I like to do things and have a life. Occasionally, a couple times a month.
You like to have a life. Okay. Sir, during council asked you about a bunch of dates and you went through them. I think you looked at your notebook or something. Okay. When you went through these dates, isn't it true that testimony came out from my client that she had a journal of all these dates and what occurred? Is that right?
Oh no.
So you're telling me that my journal doesn't count? Because I also have a journal.
Okay.
What's the journal?
I'm not going to answer your question, sir. I just asked that you answer mine.
Ooh.
Isn't it true that my client said that she had a journal of all these dates?
I believe she did state that.
And at the time these events happened, she recorded in her journal about these events, right?
I don't know if she did or not.
Okay.
I didn't hear her ever do it.
Did you at the time of all of these events that she testified to, did you keep a journal at that time?
I did.
You kept a journal. Okay.
So if that's time I did.
Look at her look
So
up.
if that's the case, why didn't you bring these events up the first time you testified?
Because I'm drunk.
No.
Well, because on my journal, that's not the same as her journal. I look up the dates that she stated, and they were great days. We didn't have a fight. We didn't argue. Nobody yelled. It just went smooth and easy like a normal couple did. That's what my journal says.
But you didn't, the first time you testified, sir, you did not mention a journal. Is that right?
Did you ask?
I am asking you if you mentioned a journal. The first time you testified, did you mention a journal?
I believe I did have a journal that I have dates that I've stated.
So you're saying the first time you testified that you did mention that you had a journal. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I mentioned the journal, the J word, but I did give you dates and times and stuff on events. That's kind of obvious that I have a record.
Isn't it true that you just blanketly went through these events and you just, for most of them, said incorrect or false? Isn't that right?
I did. I answered the question my attorney asked me.
So is it your testimony here today that as Miss Borden, as these events were occurring and Miss Borden was writing these events in her journal, that they were all false?
I haven't seen her journal, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if they're all false.
On the answers that you gave, where you said false and incorrect on the dates and the events that happened, is it your testimony here today that she basically, that those are all false and that she lied in her journal? Is that your testimony?
Yeah, I think she's pushing it way overbound and out of bounds. They're false. The statements that she said.
So all of her detailed descriptions are false.
Definitely daylight.
That's right.
Every question that I ask and I said false, I mean it was false.
Okay.
He's losing it. He wishes that was beer. I would love to see what she's writing to him.
I have one moment, Your Honor, please.
Okay.
guys, isn't this? I told you this is a good one. There's so much more to this one too. I'm gonna be on for a little while longer, and then I'm gonna be on tomorrow also, guys. We're doing Saturdays is definitely a thing now.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, Ms. McNiff, any redirect?
Briefly, Mr. Higley, did you ever see Ms. Borden write in a journal when you were together?
Never.
And nothing further.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Zoglio?
No other questions from Mr. Higley, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. McNiff, any more rebuttal witnesses?
Nothing.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. So then tomorrow we're gonna play part 3 of this, along with some other clips that I had that I saved. I have a great one from Judge Webster, the Judge Webster from Texas. That this one ran long. This one got great as it went. So I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Look out for the post. It's going to be not my usual time. It's going to be earlier on Saturday, probably around 5 or 6. But look out for my my posting of when I'm going to go live, guys. My moderators do a great job. Everybody in the chat, just take it easy on them. They work very hard. They just do it out of the goodness of their hearts, and they're helping me and helping make it better for you. So guys, make sure to kiss your families. Make sure to have a good night. Make sure to never go to bed angry at one another. You sort of say a prayer. God bless. You have been served.